Baseball is not just a sport, but a mythology, a microcosm for society. Baseball is a vehicle for the American dream. I know I'm one of those dreamers. I'm standing here, but I'd rather be in left field. My name is Ray Zone, and this is The Zone Show. My special guest today is an artist and a baseball player whose work reflects those aspects of the American dream in baseball. He is a cutting-edge artist named Jezewski, and we're going to be talking to him about some of the mythic aspects of baseball and just how it functions as a cutting edge and metaphor as well for art and society. Welcome to the show, Greg.
How you do, Ray?
All right. You're on currently 4 different baseball teams.
Yeah, there's a semi-pro team and 3 other teams, and it takes a lot of my time.
You must have grown up playing Little League, and you know, you must have come up through the traditional route that I did with a baseball upbringing.
Yeah, I played Little League and Pony League and in New York, and I moved to California and didn't play any high school baseball or college, and when I got out of college, out of art school, I continued playing again.
What made you become an artist in addition to being a baseball youngster?
Well, my parents wanted to be artists when they were young, and they appreciate good art, and they influenced me in that way.
How did you come about using baseball as like a metaphoric symbol for things other than sport in art?
Well, when you play on 4 teams, I think it sort of permeates your mind, and you start thinking just about what you do.
You've actually went to art school and had a relatively normal education in art?
Yeah, I went to Otis Art Institute and graduated in '78, I believe, just at the time when USC was, Parsons and USC were trying to take over Otis and Parsons. I actually got my degree from Parsons.
So what kind of responses your baseball imagery got within the fine arts community, which can be a kind of high-toned, highbrow set?
Well, I don't think artists and athletes really get along too well. I mean, the intellectuals and well, the typical athlete is not an intellectual, but you know, I get along fine with both. The people are people.
You have a lot of references to not just mythology, but morality and almost kind of interpretation of physics with your work. Where does your inspiration come from?
Well, I'll be playing a game, and all of a sudden, I'll think of something, and it'll hit me strange, and I'll do a painting about it, or I'll do work that'll just develop into something. There's an umpire in one of my leagues, and he wears a turban, and he makes controversial calls, and people argue with him. But I always say, why would he lie? He's a religious man.
He wears a turban while he's actually umping the game then, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty weird. This is baseball Los Angeles style?
Yeah, it's a softball league. It's a little more casual than a hardball league, but he is an umpire.
Well, you've got some real controversy in your baseball images, with images out of religion, for example, mixing Christ with sports. Have you aroused some ire? Have people objected to that?
Yeah, I had a show at Biola Bible Institute of Los Angeles, and I had a piece up there. It was a trophy, and has a mitt on top with a hole in the mitt, and underneath it has a stigmata in the hand. And there was a lot of people coming up to me that night and wondering what it was about, and yeah, it created a little bit of a problem.
Did you have an explanation for him?
Well, I told him that it was about failure, about not really achieving, what you set out to accomplish. It's kind of an anti-trophy.
Mm-hmm. It's about, so your work is about more than baseball. It's about hopes and dreams.
Yeah, it's a vehicle for. I use baseball because everybody has played it at one time or another, and they know enough about it to consider themselves an expert. And it's a good vehicle, to get across a point.
How are guys like Honus Wagner, Ty Cobb, and Babe Ruth, baseball greats? How are they heroes?
I'm not so. I think their myths are heroes. Their legend is. You look at their lives after baseball, and they're not always quite legendary or mythical as what they're supposed to be. Honus Wagner became a drunk after his playing days were over, and Ty Cobb, well, he was a problem while he was playing. That his playing abilities made him a myth, but he was pretty much of an asshole. And Willie Mays, he just recently. I always appreciated Willie Mays when I was growing up, because of his all-around ability and
the Say Hey Kid.
Yeah, the Say Hey Kid, and he just recently didn't go to the inductee ceremony for Willie McCovey, and all Hall of Famers are required to go, is what I understand, and he was off at an autograph session at some convention getting money, and I don't know, I just thought that was egotistical, that here he played his whole career with this man and he didn't go.
Well, let's take a look at some of your art now. We're going to be seeing different paintings and sculptures. You work in a real mixed media style, and the first piece we're seeing is your Skull and Bones piece, and now tell me a little bit about that, the symbolism.
Losing streak ended Sunday.
I did this. I saw a tombstone out of a Brooklyn graveyard, and it had a cross bat and catcher's mask. And I thought that it'd be great to make a tombstone for myself. And it's a natural logo for baseball. And I got some old cleats of mine. I use a lot of equipment that I've used in playing in my artwork, and well, it's sort of like hanging up the cleats, death, and I put money on top of it,
actual
shredded money, and people look at the color and they know the color and they go up close and they're real drawn to it, and then they realize what it is.
It's not AstroTurf.
It's not AstroTurf.
How many dollars do you have in that piece?
Probably about $20,000.
It's not a reference.
But it's not.
to the,
It's not worth $20,000 now.
not yet, anyway. It's not a reference to the Pittsburgh Pirates, then. It's maybe the piracy of another sort.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
How are baseball players pirates?
How are baseball players pirates? Well, they steal bases, and they want to beat the other team. I mean, they want to win. It's their bread and butter out there, and they'll take it away from you if they can.
Another very anti-heroic image shows a ball player unshaven for the winos, and he's catching real flies. It's a visual pun, but kind of an unheroic image for baseball.
Well, I mean, with all the drug testing going on right now, I was doing this painting because I thought of a fly ball, and I was going to put wings on his shirt, and I was painting in the wings, and I just was unhappy with the G, so I crossed it out and saw winos. I left it. But it's about not or seeing something that really isn't there. Mm-hmm. And
so the ball player may be having a case of the DTs?
Yeah, something like that.
Uh-huh. Well, what started in sports with drug testing now seems to be spreading to society at large.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty scary.
Your picture with the skull is another kind of mordant, sardonic look at baseball. What's happening here?
Well, the piece is called Number 5 for starters, and I mean, at any moment, he could be holding that ball in his hand. It happened once in baseball a long time ago.
Oh, really?
And could happen at any moment. I've been hit by a pitching machine that was going 90 miles an hour, and luckily nothing happened. But I did get hit, and I had a big black eye, and I looked like a caveman, in fact. It's pretty scary.
So this is baseball possibly as the game of life and death.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Another image shows your visual pun using flies again.
Well, that was the original painting that I'd done on fly balls, and I used to play on a team called the Mud Hens, taken from the Toledo Mud Hens, and I had trouble one day catching some fly balls, so
That one
I thought I'd do
after?
I thought I'd do a painting about it. There was a guy that kept on hitting home runs over my head further and further, and I just felt like I was chasing flies out there.
Now you also use caveman imagery with your paintings. Is this a result of the time you got hit by the machine? And,
Well, no, that was the first baseball painting I did, in fact. It was
the caveman one.
Yeah, it was, I just thought it was, I was interested in anthropology at the time. I still am, but I just thought it was too close to pass up, so baseball player with the bat and a caveman with the club, and coming out of the dugout and coming out of a cave like that.
Uh-huh.
And jocks are considered kind of dumb, so well.
The brawny
Yeah,
type.
the brawn and no brain type. And
Uh-huh.
so I just thought it was humorous, so I thought I'd do one.
There's a lot of parallels.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's how I do a lot of my work.
A more metaphysical kind of image shows Christ with a ball player sliding into, is it home plate or?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. This is the one I painted off of the umpire with the turban. And,
Oh, I see.
And I kept on thinking about how funny it was, and came up with this. Sort of, he's got the all-saying word, the umpire, so.
Well, this one has a lot of metaphysical implications. The home being either heaven or hell, the game being over, a reference to the afterlife.
Yeah.
Now, kind of along the lines of your caveman imagery, we see an image of mob violence. The baseball players as kind of a herd.
That painting's called Murderer's Row, and I intended it as men on a fishing trip somewhere, and showing like their catch. And the 1927 Yankees were called the Murderers Row. So I did a painting about it.
Babe Ruth played for them.
Babe Ruth, there was a lot of players.
Really a humorous piece is your nude catcher at home. I think this is pretty obvious. I don't know if it requires an explanation, does it?
Well, I'd like to see the face that he's looking at. But, somebody liked it so much that it was stolen.
It grew legs and walked away. Huh?
It grew legs, yeah.
What about the image of the giant and the miniatures with the animals? This one is kind of a mystery to me. What's happening here?
Well, it's about mythology, and the giant being, you know, like a Greek giant, and all the other teams in the National League are represented there. They have the Phillies as the horse, and the Cubs. It has a cardinal, and well, the Pirates are in there, and the Reds and the Dodgers. And I just thought, well, they're fighting out a pennant, so. I mean, mythology is a story of myths around the origin of a people, and I thought, you know, this would be a good way to show that.
Mm-hmm. Also, your vampire is a pretty spooky image. Here, I really see the influence of movies, particularly the film Nosferatu.
Yeah, in fact, I took the face off of one of them for the painting. It's a night game.
I noticed that.
And of course, they wouldn't be playing during the day. And it's got an umpire and a player from Pennsylvania. And
is that a pun on Transylvania?
yeah. Close enough.
When was the first night game? It was something like
48 or
48 or something.
I think so.
Didn't Johnny Vandermeer throw
I'm not sure.
a no-hitter or two right when they first started? Or?
Is that right?
I think so. It's the advantage of the night lights.
Yeah, I was reading a book recently, and Pee Wee Reese was like cursing the night games. That I'm sure it took a while to get adjusted. Nowadays, I play at night a couple times a week, and I've become adjusted to it. But I mean, I've kind of played it my whole life under lights. But those guys back then, they had to come into it real cold.
Oh yeah, I think the ball seems to get softer at night. It just seems like it's fatter and harder to hit farther.
It's hard to see, especially fly balls in the outfield.
Now you've got a work in progress with the baseball player and holding a gun here and a little miniature mitt. What's going to be in the rest of this scenario?
Well, it could go a few different ways. It could have him shooting an umpire, you know, like kill the umpire, or could have him. Outfielders are sometimes referred to as having a gun for an arm.
Oh yeah, shotgun arm.
Yeah, right, or a rifle, and I could have him shooting baseballs and running away from an owner with a glove full of money, you know, sort of like a bank robbery.
The robbery of current rates.
It can go a few different ways. I haven't finished it, so I'm still working on it.
Now your voodoo box, this is a wonderful piece. Is this a reference to the fact that baseballs are made in Haiti, the birthplace of voodoo?
Well, it could be. I saw a program once where they had this big big god in the sky, omnipotent. It's a hard one to get out. Being in the sky, so I decided to make a constellation out of you know the Earth and the god, and him spitting on the Earth, and it's sort of the Last Judgment, and it has on the wings Adam, spelled A-T-O-M, and evil as E-V-I-L, and in the background, you can see the moon and Jiminy Cricket's on the moon, and that's
A real
the
homage.
old song, you know.
A real homage to popular culture, but it seems like your most microcosmic piece.
Yeah,
Really
it kind of
embracing.
it encompasses a lot more than my other work.
I guess your box with the cows in it is an earlier piece from.
Yeah, it's one of the first pieces I did when I got out of school. It's scientific in nature. It's about bacteria, really.
Oh, really?
And it's sort of where the piece with the voodoo came out of. Or, I mean, the voodoo piece came out of this one, where an all-knowing being is taking the cow and placing it in another spot. And I just like to leave it open whether it's going one way or another.
It seems like with your mixed media boxes that it's almost like you're creating a world in miniature.
Yeah, well, I like the triptych format because it makes a comment on this thing in the center, this image in the center, and it's focusing.
Mm-hmm. The same kind of cohesiveness is evident in your piece with the Joker in the center. You use heels, shoes, the soles of shoes in many of these.
Well, the pieces are about putting your foot in your mouth. And the Joker, that one's about the old song, Fools Rush In, where angels fear to go, wise men tread where fools often go. Mm-hmm. And, well, it's like putting your foot in your mouth.
Also, the box with the matches is just nicely detailed imagery with a burning bridge inside and kind of spooky teeth there. What's the metaphor here?
Well, it's burnt bridges, you know, putting your foot in your mouth. Instead of being a heel, you put your foot in your mouth. And, yeah.
Your visual puns seem fairly obvious once you get the title. Do all these pieces have titles?
Not really. Not that one series. Mm-hmm. Except, you know, it being the piece with the Joker and, you know, or the burnt bridge. Or.
Do you play billiards?
Yeah, I do. I have a pool table, and it's sort of like baseball. It's round balls hitting each other. It's a round bat hitting a round ball. So hand-eye coordination, it teaches you that physics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pure physics enters into it here again. What about this similarity between a stiletto or a stiletto heel and bat wings? What's happening here?
Well, I think it's about love is what it is.
The pain of love? Or?
Yeah, the pain or the injection of it. Vampires have a lot to do with lust and the stiletto heel.
Mm-hmm. Really spooky image there. Is this a God's eye?
Oh no, that's the sun was in his eye, so he.
Oh, I see.
He dropped the ball, and.
Is that Norm Seaburn?
I think that was Marv Thornberry. No, actually, it's a picture of Dodger Stadium. So, so
yeah,
maybe it was
diamond vision
maybe it was
there.
Bill Russell.
Really nicely detailed piece. Well, let's talk just briefly about winning and losing with the image of the piece you mentioned, your trophy, with the stigmata.
Well, can't always win.
Is this a loser's trophy?
No, I think you need to lose to know how to win.
You need to lose to learn how to win?
Yeah. I think you have to know both to appreciate both.
Have you been on last place teams?
I've been a lot of last place teams. The Mud Hens was one.
What about first place teams and championships?
Yeah, I've been on a few. Not enough, but...
Were you an all-star? Have you been an all-star?
Yeah, I've played a few all-star games. Had a couple of good days.
Where'd you play? You played Little League ball, right?
Yeah, in New York. I grew up in New York.
What was the name of your first team?
My first team, the Apache. No. I think it was the Braves, but that was before Little League. That was a tiny league. I'm not sure.
This is minor league, huh?
This is tiny Little League. And then I think it was the Cards.
What position did you play?
I played shortstop in Little League, and we got into the playoffs. I made 4 errors in the playoffs, and that was my stay at shortstop. After Little League, I went back to the outfield, or out to the outfield. So, and I pitched one game in Little League and pitched a no-hitter, but I hit about 5 guys, 6 guys.
Well, it wasn't a no-hitter, strictly speaking.
Yeah, I hit a lot of guys. But the mothers were kind of upset, and they said, "No, we don't want that boy playing. You know, we don't want him pitching." So.
Did you have a religious upbringing?
Yeah, my parents were religious, and I was brought up Catholic, and.
So would you often go from church to the baseball field?
Yeah, on Sundays.
Okay, romantic novels figure in this construction here.
Well, this is a piece that I did from an installation that I had done, and it's about a skeleton in your closet, and the actual piece didn't have any music, but you open up the door and there was a skeleton in there, and he had a ring in his hand and a cigar in his mouth, and this piece that I did was all these romance novels for a frame, and you open up the little door and a wedding march played. So.
You've done a number of other installations, like the piece with the cow's skull. And you also had a piece in the Cotton Exchange.
That was done on the lines of the skeleton in the closet, and the music on it. When you open up that door, that piece had music to it that played an old Sons of the Pioneer song called "Cigarettes and Whiskey and Wild Wild Women." They'll drive you crazy, and they'll drive you insane.
Now, in addition to your works of pure homage, like your early works with Honus Wagner and also Babe Ruth, you made a burning effigy of yourself.
Well, you have to be born sometime, so figure, why let somebody do it for you? I'll just do it myself.
This is an act of self-birth here? Or?
Yeah, I think that's when I started realizing certain things.
Well, I know you collect baseball cards, and you have quite a collection. I really envy what you've got.
Well, maybe we could trade sometime.
Okay,
right?
maybe we should talk art and baseball cards. To conclude our show here, what advice would you give to baseball players who are also aspiring artists?
Realize what you're doing and do it to the best of your ability.
Go for it?
Yeah, go. Well, you want to use that expression? Yeah.
All right, Greg. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Ray.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out for some fun. Oh, buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if we never come back. Oh, it's root for the home team. It's a shame if they lose, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out in the old ball game. How sweet is take me out to the ball game. Take me out for some fun. Oh, I need some peanuts and cracker jack.